Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for being here. Today on Emotional Development Tuesday, I want to talk about emotional children. Do you have an emotional child? How do you deal with them? Because when you have an emotional child, they will seem to be the child that will take most of your parenting energy. They will seem to be the child that will need most of your attention. And you will reach a burnout, and you will feel like you are losing it because an emotional child does not know how to regulate their emotion. Whenever anything happens, the first thing that they do is cry. And sometimes it may look so simple and you'd not understand it and you get annoyed, but for them it's a big deal. Their world is crumbling, and even if they are not your last born, you will always want to treat them like an egg, because as parents and as a society we fear crying. It's not even fear, we are triggered by children who are crying. That is why when you are somewhere and a child is crying, people will be like, where's the mother? Where's that baby crying? And when your child cries, you're like, keep quiet. Even when we were growing up, when you cried for something that your parent or caregiver or somebody older than you felt was not worth crying for, you are told that I will beat you so that now you cry, to give you a reason to cry. And that is something we have as a society. We don't want to hear children crying. Even in the older days, during my grandmother's days, those men used to have like a room for themselves. And there were men who were so violent that if they had a child crying, they would come and hit the mother. They would not even ask, why is this child crying? No, the mother would just be hit. So children crying is something that we as a society do not like. And when you have an emotional child, it is even harder if you have not learned to regulate your emotions yourself. I have 3 girls, and one of them is emotional, or should I say was emotional. And because we have worked on it, and she is nowadays fine. And I think me being a child and adolescent psychologist has helped a lot towards that. And I was in class first before I helped others. This helped me first. I remember when she was young, she was the one child I would live with 2 house helps, and they would call me because she would cry and gasp for air. Yeah, they would tell me, Mama Rudi, mtoto analia mpaka anahema. There was only one girl who would manage to stay with Marjorie. She told me I was that child, I would deal with her. And she never called me, true to her word. She never called me to come back home and say and attend to Marjorie. And so as she was growing up, when she was still younger, I also didn't know how to handle her. We were both confused. I was dealing with motherhood, I was dealing with her crying and emotions, and I had not got a grip of my emotions too. So we were both confused. I think she was even more confused because the person who was supposed to guide her was not showing up for her as she expected, as she should have been shown up for. And one day I left them with my mother, her and her older sister. And then my mother just had something being hit. When she went, she found her sister hitting her, and she asked her why she was hitting her sister. And she said, that is what mommy does when she cries. So when I came back and my mother told me, it was a sad situation. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't reprimand her. I didn't tell her anything. I just went inward and asked myself what I was teaching my child. I had taught her to hit her sister. And that is the point where I started looking for ways of helping my child. And in this process, I stumbled upon child and adolescent psychology. And I have learned. I first had to learn how to deal with my emotions, how to regulate my emotions before I helped my child. And I would tell her to breathe in, breathe out. Sometimes she would go out and there would be a fight. She would come home crying. She would cry for the smallest of things. For you, it looks like a small thing. But for the child, their world is crumbling. They need help. And that is where you come as a parent, to help them regulate those emotions, not to suppress or to hit them. Emotional children get hit a lot because they communicate with their tears. Marjorie would tell you that she's hungry. By the time she's telling you for the second time, she's already crying. For you, you'll be like, why are you crying? You just told me now. I'm going to give you that whatever you want. And at some point, she got everything that she wanted because we just didn't want to deal with her drama. We saw it as drama. And with time, we taught her. She learned how to regulate her emotions. And sometimes now she comes home and tells me, Mommy, nowadays this happened, that happened. There was a day I was supposed to pick her from school and I did not. And she told me, Mommy, when I was told you are not coming, I just excused myself and went to the washroom and had my time. She said she went to the washroom, she cried and then breathed in and out and then went back to class. That is a milestone for a child who would cry and throw a tantrum at any given provocation, at the slightest provocation or at the slightest obstacle. It was almost impossible to tell Marjorie no, because you knew there was going to be tantrums, there was going to be drama, there was going to be noise. And as I said, as a society, we don't like noise. Yeah. When I was getting her off breast milk, we had just moved into a new place. She was almost 2 years old. Marjorie cried until neighbors came to knock my door. She was not the child you'd say, you know, the way we say she'll not cry for 2 hours. Marjorie would go for 3 hours. She had the endurance of a marathoner. And so when she learned these things, there was a day she told me to teach her small sister. She is now, the small one is 3. And we are at that stage where we are throwing tantrums, but not as much as Marjorie did. So there's a day she tells me, Mommy, why don't you teach her these things? Yeah, teach her how to breathe in and out. And I just looked at her and marveled. I was happy. And in the days when I had not learned how to handle her and teach her how to handle her emotions, she was not doing well because she was stressed. I was also stressed, but she was more stressed, and it showed in her body, in her skin, and how she looked. Nowadays, my baby glows. She is fine. She can manage her emotions, and the tantrums are less. The playground fights are less. She doesn't come home and say, oh, this person did that. She knows how to set boundaries. She knows how to stand up for herself, and she is thriving. And if you are a parent who has an emotional child, you feel that your child is crying unnecessarily, let me begin by telling you that it is not unnecessary. That is who they are. Emotional children communicate through their tears. They do not know how to speak up. They have not learned how to speak up for themselves. So their only way of communication is tears and tantrums. You might feel that this child takes a lot of your energy in parenting. Yes, they do, because you need to step up. You are given that child because God knows you can manage. And so if you're that parent who has an emotional child and you need help with how to help them cope and navigate through their emotions, I'm here for you. I am a teacher. I will teach you how to teach your child to manage their emotions so that you don't have so many breakdowns. I will teach you how to teach your child and guide them on how to express themselves, on how to manage their emotions. Sometimes they also get angry and get violent because they feel no one is listening to them. They scream a lot, and it is true. We don't listen to them. Yeah, we dismiss them. We think that they cry too much. We think that it is inconsequential. We think that they cry over small things. Those things that you think that are small are their world. When they cry, their world is truly crumbling and they need help. And as a parent, that is the moment you need to step up and help them. So for the parents who have emotional children and who need help with them, there's a class for that. And I will put the link below, and you will learn how to help your child. And the help begins with you acknowledging and getting a grip of yourself. Only then will you be able to help your child. Thank you for being here. Remember to like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.